49ers Ultimate Report. This is John J., your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan. What is up, everyone, from the 49ers Ultimate Report? I am John J. Today we have a fun episode. We're going to be talking with a Seattle Seahawks guy who talks about the Seattle Seahawks. So this is going to be a really fun episode. As you already know, I'm not a big Seahawks guy. Niners all day for life. And of course, I've made it clear on my channel, why I'm not a big Seahawks guy. But I enjoy talking football. And even, if they're a Raider fan, a Seahawks fan, a Patriots fan, a Miami Dolphins fan, I always like talking to the NFL fans. And even though we know the 49ers are the best team on this channel, we always welcome in Rams fans. It's like we had Peo time. But before we start off the episode, I want to give again a huge shout out to all of my subscribers going back to day one all the way to this past week, helping me continue to grow in this wonderful journey. So I really appreciate your great support. But let's jump right in. So my next guest has a YouTube channel called, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, Steezy A. Smith. He covers the Seattle Seahawks. I think he also covers NBA and other sports as well. I think he also covers Seattle, the teams up there as well. So let's give a good welcome to our next guest. We have Steezy A. Smith. How are you doing?
Steezy A. Smith, yes sir. I'm doing well, bro. Thank you for having me on. It's a little overdue, but real excited about what's to come today.
Yeah, and it's so wonderful to have a Seahawks fan and a 49er fan, to talk football. We are very passionate about our team. Of course, I'm always going to say that the Niners are the best team no matter what. I know you're going to be the Seahawks are, also better, etc. But at the end of the day, we know football, we talk football. So it doesn't matter if you support the Seahawks. At the end of the day, we love talking NFL football, and especially the teams that we cover. So let the fans know who you are, what you do, what you talk about your channel. So this is your intro.
Yes, sir. So the name's Calvin Domingo. Calvin Domingo's the name. Steezy A. Smith is the game. I'm currently a college student. I got 2 years left in college. I'm looking to major in sports journalism / broadcast journalism. And so that's what I'm doing right now. It's summer break. It's the off season for me. And so I'm really just trying to focus on, pumping out more content on YouTube, more content really across all my other socials. So that's it for me. Can't wait to get into this.
Yeah, so it's always fun, talking, football. When I started, doing YouTube, I didn't know how this was going to go for me, but I've been watching your content. You have a really good amount of subscribers. You do really good work. So shout out to you and what you do. And hopefully this is going to be a very interesting episode. So let's get ready to some of the great topics. So for those who have been following me for quite some time now, is we always go with the news. We talk about the big news of the day. But because it's the off season, we're finally getting closer and closer to preseason. I think this also hits home to you because in last week it's about Richard Sherman, and I know he spent time with the Seahawks. So the biggest story that everybody probably wants to know is about what is Seahawks Nation talking about the Richard Sherman situation. So I want to get the Seahawks perspective of this situation, because here in the Bay Area, we have been sympathizing about what's been going on with Richard Sherman. But what is the tone over there in Seahawksville?
The way that I see it, it's more of a, we wish him well. And we kind of look at it as if like, man, this kind of eliminates, the chances of Seattle possibly signing him, in the middle of training camp, because we expected that. Well, I guess I'm not going to say we expected, but a lot of fans were clamoring for Seattle to bring back Richard Sherman. And if Seattle was going to do that, it probably would have been closer to training camp, maybe even come preseason. And so with news breaking out that he's facing this many charges and how he's going to have a hearing and whatnot, obviously that looks a little more bleak. But, aside from that, we're kind of just looking at it from the standpoint of, we wish him the best. We wish that, obviously things play out in his favor. We wish things are better for him, and we hope that things aren't actually as bad as they appear to be. And no matter what, we're still gonna ride with them. We're still gonna rock with them, even though the relationship might not have ended on the best of notes back in 2017. Over here in Seattle, those memories of LOB, he's forever gonna be the heart and soul, at least one of the hearts and souls of Seattle. And so we're gonna stand behind him, and right or wrong. We kind of look at it from the standpoint of maybe, CTE is starting to trickle into some of these players even now. And so we look at it also from that perspective of that, possibly this might stem from that. So overall, we're kind of just looking out for the health of the player, but we wish him the best. We hope the best for Richard Sherman, and we're still going to rock with him right or wrong.
One thing I wanted to ask you, because I know Richard Sherman still has a lot of friends in Seattle. What has the players have they been talking about that they're concerned about their former teammate, their friend? Because here in Santa Clara, John Lynch said a wonderful memo that if the Niners organization need to have his back, they're here for whatever they really need. Is there any type of support from that organization? Because I've not heard anything of the Seattle things about like if the players have been concerned about him.
It's tough because not a lot of players that are on this roster now even played with Sherm. I think really one of the few players that really even played with Sherm is Lockett, Russ, and Wagner. And so I think from Seattle's point of view, not too many things are being said just because there isn't too much familiarity with the players that are on the roster now. Management, obviously, they can't really say too much just because not only if that relationship ended, but I don't know if that would possibly count as tampering. But I just really haven't heard too much yet. Like you said, I don't really know why, other than the fact that there just aren't too many players that really even play with them. But I'm sure behind the scenes, behind the closed doors, they all wish them the best. They all wish them well. And just like I said, with the fans over here, we're rocking with them until the end.
And at the end of the day, I don't know if you watch, some of my videos about Richard Sherman, but I went to a full detail of the timeline, all the situations, and there's been a situation where if he's taking some medication for depression, if he's going through issues with his girl, with his wife, maybe a possible divorce, things like that. Of course, any normal person is going to snap when you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're driving a car, you get into a crash. So this is very out of character for him. Hopefully it's just something that maybe he just needs to know that support from his family. Because one thing about Richard Sherman that I do know a lot, and even though when he was a Seahawks, I followed his upbringing. There's a lot of great stories about him. For a kid from Compton, California, to go to Stanford, I've been to that university many times because I live here in the city in the Bay Area. It's a hard school to get to. So it really shows you that it could be something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm a person that makes sure all the facts come out. Let's not judge the guy. If he did what he did because he was doing it on purpose, that's understandable. But if he does need help, we should stay away. The media should stay away, let him get better. Because I think this year, even after everything, he still has to go to court, deal with all the other, because there's still charges that he has to work. So I don't know if he's going to be playing this year. And that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Obviously, if it's something wrong with his mental health, then that's probably, or that should be his priority. He shouldn't even be focused on playing right now. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he's still unsigned. Maybe he was already going through a lot of things. Maybe he was already depressed. Maybe he was going through a little bit of a mental health crisis. Because as we all know, what had happened, what transpired, that's very uncharacteristic of Richard Sherman. We all know what he is. You talked about it. He went to Stanford. He was a 4.0. He graduated with a 4.0 GPA. He's really one of the smartest men in all the NFL. And so for something like this to happen, obviously something that has got to be wrong, something that a lot of us don't know about. And so I really hope that he gets the help that he needs. He even talked about it on his post on social media. And so, let's hope that instead of even worrying about this upcoming season, he's going to worry about himself.
So I have a comment here. It says, this guy is Jay. He's one of my followers. He says, do you support Stanford? Please don't support Cal. So I don't know if you follow Stanford or any Bay Area college. So I just wanted to ask you, do you support any Bay Area colleges program?
I mean, not really. I mean, from supporting colleges, it's going to be colleges from over here in Seattle. I'm not really even the biggest college supporter to begin with. I mean, I love college sports. Don't get me wrong. I'm in college myself, but if anything, when it comes to watching sports, I'd rather be professional. So, to answer the question, no, I don't.
All right, so we're going to start with a very touchy topic that's been going on for a while, not just in the recent years. Of course, we're going to talk about Ahkello Witherspoon, former corner who's now in Seattle. Kerry Hyder, former defensive end, now with the Seahawks. So before we jump right into those two players, the sense of the notion, and this was brought up to me from a guy who covers the Niners. His name is Ryan Sakamoto, the Beast Rider. He's a really good guy, and he has reminded everybody that for many years, the Seahawks have signed former 49er players. My question to you is, because as a 49er, we don't want to see any of our players go to your squad. Why does that happen? Why do a lot of the free agents that they get, the majority come from the 49ers?
Well, Seattle talked about it, or I think they have been on record speaking about Ahkello Witherspoon and how they wanted to draft him back in 2017. But obviously, you guys got to him before, and Seattle had to settle for Shaquille Griffin. He fits the system. He fits the scheme. He fits what Seattle looks for in the corners. He's about 6'2", 6'3". He's athletic. He has long arms, and he knows the scheme. A lot of the schemes that Seattle and San Francisco coordinate, a lot of them kind of have some things that overlap. A lot of the concepts are the same. A lot of the coverages and some of the schemes are the same. And so Ahkello Witherspoon is also on record talking about how Seattle pretty much runs the same scheme on defense, and so there's going to be familiarity there. He's not going to have to struggle and wait a full offseason to have to pick up and learn a new playbook. A lot of things remain the same. Yeah, some things are going to be different, obviously, but with practice and with training camp coming up, that's not going to be a problem at all. And I just think that scheme really plays the biggest part. A lot of overlaps, like I said, and familiarity. And then if a 49er player is being let go, and if the team doesn't want to re-sign them, then by playing for their rival, you have a chance to go up against them. So that's kind of what Richard Sherman was thinking when he got released by Seattle. He had the opportunity to go up against Seattle twice a year and to kind of exact his revenge. I'm not saying that every player is out there, looking for vengeance or looking for revenge, but I feel like that is definitely on a lot of players' mindsets when they leave San Fran and go to Seattle, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, one thing that this guy, you should check him out, is Beast Rider, and he has a lot of great things to say about your organization, and that's the reason why, out of the Rams and the Cardinals, I'm probably the only person that says do not count out Russell Wilson with that Seahawks team, because Russell Wilson is really good, and he said that, and I hope my boy the Beast Rider is wrong, but he says that Ahkello Witherspoon, even though did not have a outstanding 2020 season, the way he plays, the type of coverages he plays really fits Seattle so well that he could have a bounce back year. So I wanted to ask you if you agree with that from this guy. He's a beat writer for the 49ers. He covers all the teams. He knows Seahawks football really well, just like you. Do you agree that maybe a new system, a new team for Ahkello Witherspoon will really bring out that, what we wanted from him in the first place with Seattle?
Yeah, I completely believe that. And I'm not even just saying that just because I'm a Seahawks fan rooting for his success. I really feel that if he's going to have success in this league, it's going to be with a team like the Seahawks. Because if not, then I'm going to start to question whether or not his future is in Seattle or if his future lies in another team. And, we talked about it. The schemes are the same. He's asked of, a lot of the same things that they asked for in San Fran. He fits what Seattle looks for in the corner. He's athletic. And at times he can't be a shutdown guy. He's inconsistent. He deals with injuries. He is injury prone, and he is prone to, a lack of technique at times. And so I think that if he's going to succeed, it's going to be here in Seattle. Once again, he's familiar with the scheme. He's not going to have to spend as much time, soaking up the playbook. All he can really focus on is just putting in reps and establishing chemistry with his new teammates, with his new defensive coordinator. But yeah, if he isn't successful here in this upcoming season in Seattle, I'm going to start to wonder whether or not he even has a future in the NFL.
Let's move on to Kerry Hyder, because one thing that when I started my YouTube channel very, very early, when it was like very bad production, just a laptop and my computer only, and I said that Kerry Hyder there was an article that was written here in the Bay Area that he wanted between $5 and $7 million. And personally, even though he had a really, really great year, when the Niners, he was really the guy who really helped that D line really well, getting the sacks. So there is a two-part question. So let's go with the first question. Why did the Seahawks sign Kerry Hyder? What does Kerry Hyder have that the Seahawks really need on that defensive line?
Versatility. He can line up anywhere on the defensive line. He can line up at the 3 technique. You could line him up on the interior. You can line him up on the outside. He could really get it in from all sides of the defensive line. He's not maybe great, but he's a good run stuffer. He's good at sniffing out the run. He can get after the quarterback. And last year wasn't his first season with A+ sacks. He also had 8 or 8.5 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, with the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago before injuries kind of led to his downfall. But now that he's back up and healthy, now that he's fresh off a 2-year, $6.5 million contract, I think he's going to be highly motivated. He's going to be playing for a division rival, and so he's going to want to stick it to the Niners, especially each and every single time they play. While he didn't get that $5 to $7 million that you were talking about, I was surprised to see him get the contract that he got in Seattle. I mean, on the surface, it's going to look like 3 years, $17.5 million, but a lot of people don't look at the fact that the third year is actually a voidable year. So that last year for $10 million is completely non-guaranteed. So essentially, it's a 2-year, $6.5 million deal, which is a bargain for a guy that had 8.5 sacks last year. You might want to talk about, or people might talk about the fact that, oh, he only had 8.5 sacks because Nick Bosa was injured. Well, I'm not too sure. I mean, I like to think that, he actually had somewhat of an impact. He's one of the reasons why you guys still fielded a top 5 defense last year, even without DeForest Buckner, even without Nick Bosa due to injury, even without D4 due to injury. You guys had a plethora of injuries. Richard Sherman was injured, and yet he was able to be one of the bright spots. He was able to step up, and he showed that in a great way last year. And so I'm really excited about what he's going to bring. There's been a lot of comparisons to him and Michael Bennett. And so obviously we all know how much success Michael Bennett had in Seattle. And so I think that's one of the biggest reasons why Seattle looked at Hyder and said, you know what, we got to bring him on board.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, I worry about Seattle is that, one of the things that I know about Seattle, because, I'm able to watch also Seattle games, also. And one thing about, Russell Wilson that a lot of people, and one thing, I don't know if you know Colin Cowherd, he has a show in the mornings, and he brought up something very interesting that I didn't know, that Russell Wilson is an MVP type of player, but that's never had an MVP vote. And he had a really outstanding year, with his numbers. I'm not saying that he had the numbers like, Aaron Rodgers, but the numbers were really good. And then you look at, the offensive line, I'm not saying their offensive line is perfect because, Russell Wilson, I don't know if this is true, and you can correct me that, that he's been complaining about that offensive line. That's why he's forced to run around, etc. But they got 2 wide receivers that are really dangerous. I always forget the names of their running backs. The offense looks really, really good. They're able to put points. Now, the thing that really, also tells me that when it comes to the defensive side of the Seattle Seahawks, that's an area that, I'm not sure with Hyder and Witherspoon if that improved. I know Jamal Adams is there. Give me one reason why you think, or maybe I'm telling the truth about the defense. Is their defense the issue, or is their defense not as bad as the media is saying?
So right now, if I had to point out Seattle's biggest weakness, I'm with you. I think it is the defense. I think on offense, on paper, it looks like it should be a top 5 offense. And so I'm not super worried about the offense. And going back to your point about Russell Wilson beating up on his O-line, I don't know if all that was valid. I mean, yeah, he threw the team under the bus. Yeah, he's been taking all these sacks for all these years. But like he said in that Dan Patrick interview, he's also responsible for a lot of those sacks. And I'm actually going to drop a video maybe in the next couple of weeks. But the Seahawks offensive line is not nearly as bad as you might think. If I'm going to, divide the blame, I'd say Russ Wilson deserves about 25 to 30% of the blame for all the sacks that he takes. He's always holding on to the football. He's always trying to play hero ball, and he's always looking for the deep ball. And so when that happens, when you don't get rid of the football quickly, when you don't check it down, yeah, you're going to take a lot of sacks. And yeah, he avoids a lot of sacks, but at the same time, he's also the reason why he takes so many of them. And so that aside, Yes, I think the defense right now is a concern, but one of the bright spots of the defense is the pass rush. You go back to last year, the Seahawks finished seventh in the NFL with 46 sacks, and through week 7, they were damn near dead last with 12 sacks. And so obviously Carlos Dunlap coming in, that helped spark things a bit. Jamal Adams started blitzing more. He came back healthy. That changed things a bit. And other guys stepped up. Benson Mills' play was elevated. Puna Ford stepped up. Jerry Reed stepped up. And so a lot of guys played into Seattle finishing 7th in the NFL in pass rush. Now, with that being said, if you're that loaded at the pass rush, or if you have that many options to get after the quarterback, well, that's going to mask some of the deficiencies on the back end. Earlier, I talked about some of the concerns that I had in the Seattle secondary. Well, some of those are easily masked because of a great pass rush. I mean, you go back to San Fran just a couple years ago when you guys went to the Super Bowl. Richard Sherman had an All-Pro year. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the year that he had, but he definitely benefited tremendously by having D Ford, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, a healthy unit. And so you could ask the secondary, their best friend is really a pass rush. And so that being taken into account, you look at some of the talent on Seattle's defense. Linebackers, they still have one of the best in the game, and Bobby Wagner. Jordan Brooks was a first-round pick just last year, and Seattle believes in him enough to not re-sign KJ Wright. And so obviously there's a lot of things in place for him, in store for him. Darrell Taylor, who Seattle drafted in the 2nd round, they have a lot of high hopes for him. He's going to be, I feel like, a factor in the pass rush. Alton Robinson was a rookie last year, rotational guy with only 4 sacks. He's going to step it up. Rasheem Green led this team in sacks just a couple years ago. He's still going to be a presence in the pass rush. Puna Ford's been getting a lot better. He's one of the best run stuffers in all of football. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler after this year. And so Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs was a Pro Bowler last year, was top 5 in interceptions. His talent literally littered all over the defense. Really, they just have to put it together. The secondary has to put it together. There's a lot of young guys at corner, but DJ Reed, who we got from you guys, he showed that he can be a number 1 corner in this league. Now we just got to watch him do it throughout the course of an entire season. But to go back to your point, yes, the defense is something that I'm worried about right now. But if the guys are able to put it all together, if they're able to establish chemistry, then I say people better watch out.
Yeah, and I truly agree with everything. Like that's why I like YouTubers like you. You were on Jay and the Bay. You were on my boy CG Ruthless Sports. The media loves to over exaggerate stuff. Like during the Super Bowl, they were like saying, "Oh, Russell Wilson, he's blaming his team, all that." And it's really true. You also have to put accountability on him. Yeah, he takes a lot of sacks as well. And everything that you just said, for a lot of people who says, even the media, NFL media, don't trust that defense of the Seahawks. They're overrated, but there's a reason why. Even though they're not number 1, they're still a good defense, and that's the reason why I worry about the Seahawks out of the Cardinals and the Rams. Even though the Rams, everyone's hyping, Matthew Stafford. Oh, they're gonna go 15-2. Oh, the Cardinals, they're also going to do well. Everyone's saying that you guys are going to be at the bottom of the division. So I do agree with that. Sometimes the media says certain things, but when you go piece by piece and examine, that's the reason why I think the Seahawks and the 49ers, when they play, it's going to be very, very close. That's why I'm scared to say that we're going to sweep you guys, because I don't think that's going to happen. So that's just my logic when it comes to the Seahawks and the 49ers. I think that it's the best rival in our division compared to all the other teams.
Not only in the division, I think you said this at the beginning of the show, but this is the best rivalry in all the National Football League. I mean, every single time these two teams play, it's always neck and neck. It always comes down to the wire. There's always highlights. There's always something to be seen. And even when these teams aren't relevant, every time they play and match up against each other, it's always still fireworks. It's always still a great form of entertainment. And so no matter what, no matter how bad the teams are, no matter how good the teams are, you're always in store, and you can always expect a matchup for the ages. And so, yes, I'm right there with you. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on the Seahawks and the Niners. The Cardinals right now, while they might be my dark horse in the NFC, I don't think that they should be getting that much love to win the NFC West. And as for the Rams, I think they're a little bit overrated, but we'll probably get into that a little bit more as we continue along with the show.
Yeah. So now we're going to move to another topic. Of course, Seattle Seahawks, they won the division. And I think you guys were eliminated in the first round, the second round. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys went 12. Yeah, you guys went 12-4. You guys made the playoffs. You won the division. So overall, as people in the Seahawks, was it a year that people can say in Seattle was a good year, or do you think it was a disappointing year? What is the sentiment of the 2020 season?
Man, me personally, it was very, very disappointing. And I remember I caught a lot of flack with a lot of other Seahawks fans because when I posted a video talking about why I was so disappointed with the Seahawks season, a lot of people were saying that, oh, you're a spoiled fan, or oh, you're too young to remember about the struggle. I mean, you're too young to remember the struggles that the Seahawks had in the 70s and 80s and 90s, or oh, you're asking for too much, or oh, they won the division, oh, they won the best division in football, oh, they made the playoffs. What more can you ask? Well, for me, I hold the Seahawks to a high standard. I expect this team to be competing for the Super Bowl every year. I expect this team to be making a dent in the playoffs every single year. I don't expect this team to just make the playoffs and say, oh, it was a successful year. Now, if that makes me a spoiled fan, then so be it. All I know is I have high expectations for my football team, and looking at and given the talent that this team possesses, given the coaching staff that this team has, I expect this team to go above and beyond just the playoffs. And so for me, that's why it was a disappointment. Seattle went 12-4 in the best division of football, won the best division of football, and got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. That should not have happened. And yes, Seattle struggled immensely on third down. Yes, in the second half of last season, Seattle's offense was almost nowhere to be found while their defense was all the way up here. But they got to be able to put it all together, man. I was talking about all the talent on this football team. You have a top 3 quarterback in Russell Wilson. You have a 2 top 15 wide receivers in DK and Tyler Lockett. You have a top 3 safety, Jamal. You have a top 2 linebacker in Bobby Wagner. You have a pass rush that was top 10 in the NFL last year. This team has no business not making it past the first round of the playoffs. And so I apologize to all the 12s out there, but yes, okay, I'm a spoiled fan. Call it what you want, but I have high expectations for this football team, and I'm not one of those fans that's content with just winning regular season football games. I want to see playoff games, and I want to see Super Bowls. And so far, I haven't been seeing that. Just because the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, they had more playoff wins than the Seattle Seahawks in the last 4 years. They have 2 to Seattle's what is it, 1? So yeah, it was a very disappointing season for me overall last year.
One thing that I will agree with you as a 49er fan, I was very, very young, very, very around 4 or 5 years old when the Niners won their last Super Bowl. The Niners have been in 2 other Super Bowls, and we both lost those Super Bowls. Of course, 2019 fans are still pissed off about that. So yeah, as a 49er fan, I feel the same way. We've developed a culture for so many decades that what we have gone through in the last 20 seasons has not been 49er football. People like myself, we want this team to be up there, always competing at the NFC Championship game every year. That is basically what this team is about. And if we make it to the Super Bowl, that's wonderful, but that's what the Niners are. Every year, even when we are the worst team, we are always at that high standard. And the Seahawks, one thing about Russell Wilson, he's not, 40 years old. He's not 45 like Tom Brady. He still has another decade left. And quarterbacks are now playing much longer. So I still see that the Seahawks are not declining like the media is saying. That I think that right now they're more of a transitional, just like the 49ers. We're trying to move away from that losing thing. It's just that we get hurt. You guys do really well, and then when you guys go in the playoffs, what's going on? And even though I'm not a Seahawks fan, I always tell myself, what happens when they get in the playoffs? And I can see your frustration. So I agree with you.
100%.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to move to the off season, and we're going to talk about, what the Seahawks did this off season, and also the 49ers, what we did. So we're going to talk about free agency. We're going to talk about the NFL draft. So first of all, March is coming on. A lot of teams don't have a lot of money. For the 49ers, we were able to get lucky that D Ford, Weston Richburg, and money came over from the year to give us, probably over $30 million, I think. I don't have the exact number, which allowed us to sign a lot of the players. I don't know what was the money situation in Seattle, but what happened in March? What did the Seattle Seahawks do in this free agency?
Man, well, I think to kind of recap some of the moves that they made, brought back Chris Carson, which was a must, signed Gerald Everett from the Rams, tight end, signed Akella Witherspoon from the Niners, signed Kerry Hyder, also from the Niners. We lost Shaquille Griffin, lost Carlos Hyde, KJ Wright is yet to be re-signed. And I think there were a couple of other re-signings, small re-signings, Cedric Ogbuehi, David Moore was let go. He went to the Panthers. And Geno Smith was brought back as a backup But I think other than that, Seattle didn't make too much noise in free agency. I think a guy that people also sleep on, Robert Ndikimiche, he was out of the NFL for about a year, but he was a first-round pick back in 2015, 2016. And so I think he's definitely a guy to watch out for from Ole Miss. But aside from that, Seattle didn't make too many big moves as they're, usually not really players in free agency. But I thought that they did a great job of, signing a lot of contracts that included voidable years, signing a lot of contracts that helped them to preserve cap space. Oh, I can't even – how did I forget? Brought back Carlos Dunlap, brought back Benson Mayowa. And so, yeah, there were a lot of re-signings. A lot of guys are coming back. I'm real excited. I'm not one of those guys that expects my team to sign a big, splashy free agent just to satisfy my free agency period or my needs and requirements. So I thought overall they made moves that needed to be made. They made the necessary ones, and I'm glad Seattle did not overpay for Shaquille Griffin, who's now making $13+ million with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I never want to knock a player or somebody to get, in terms of getting their money, but I'm just glad that Seattle's not paying Shaquille Griffin that much, just because I think even at his very best, he's not even really a top 10 corner in football. He's more of a maybe above average at his best. And so those are some of the moves that happened, and I'm excited for what's to come.
That's 100% true. Not just Seattle, San Francisco, and all the other teams. Of course, a lot of teams did not have a lot of money, and of course, one of your players went to Jacksonville. They wanted to get paid, and it's just the reality of free agency. And one thing that I like to always piggyback, my boy, the Beast Rider Ryan Sakamoto, says that it's better to build your team from what you have right now than going and getting like a quarterback that wants over $30 million, or one of the best corners that wants to get over $20 million. Like some teams, they do overspend, and when you don't have a lot of money, you have to do what you have to do, and that's why now piggybacking to San Francisco, I wanted to ask you this question. Were you surprised that the 49ers were able to sign a lot of their free agents? Because we gave Trent Williams a lot of money, and we didn't have a lot of money to start with. We got we call him the Juice, or Kyle Juszczyk. We were able to bring back Verrett, who I was really, really excited. I was shocked when K'Wan Williams came back that we kept Tart. We kept a lot of players on this team. As a Seattle Seahawks fan, when you're seeing the 49ers sign a lot of these players, is there any concern, or do you think that maybe that the Niners are just doing what they're supposed to be doing, because like these are the same players who are coming back that many people thought were not going to be on the team? So in your mind, do you think the Niners signing all these players kept that team at that level that everyone's talking about?
No doubt. I'm definitely a little bit concerned. I mean, I think on paper, especially when healthy, you guys already fielded one of the best teams, not just in the NFC West, but in the entire NFL. And so for you guys to be able to bring back Kyle Juszczyk, to be able to bring back Trent Williams to the largest contract for an offensive lineman in NFL history, to bring back a Jason Verrett, to bring back those other guys that you guys brought back, I mean, yeah, it's going to concern me a little bit. I mean, obviously, you guys are our biggest rivals in the division. But that being said, I mean, I'm also of the mindset that, yeah, you guys have to make these moves. And these moves definitely keep you guys where you guys stand in the NFL, which is one of the best teams when healthy. And those are just moves that they had to make. Those were moves that win now teams make. And San Francisco right now is just 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. So obviously their title window, their title of contention is now. And so obviously you're going to make moves that are geared towards winning now. And I feel like you guys made a lot of those moves now. And you guys are also set up nicely for the future with Trey Lance, who I'm very, very, very high on. I think that he has a lot of potential, and I think that he's a future superstar in this league. And so, man, that rivalry down the road, I mean, especially when Trey Lance is finally entrenched as a starter, whenever that might be, it's going to be a scary sight for especially, the rest of the Seahawks fans out here in Seattle like me. But I think for right now, you guys are doing the right thing. You guys are making all the right moves. And, San Fran and Seattle, oof. People, NFC West, better watch out.
So while we move to the NFL draft, I have to ask you this question, because here in 49er land, we are arguing about Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. You just said something that I really appreciate about Trey Lance, that he's going to be the future. He's going to be a very outstanding quarterback. We don't know what he's going to be, his ceiling. We don't know how good he's going to be. But let me ask you about Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you think that it hurts the 49ers having Jimmy Garoppolo on the field, or would you want to see right now Trey Lance? Right now, which quarterback would be like, oh yeah, if this quarterback was on the field, it'll be more easier for us? Or are you worried about both of them? Because I want to know a Seahawks perspective. I'm tired of 49er fans. In your mind, which quarterback is you're more worried about, and which quarterback you're least worried about?
Well, obviously coming from a Seahawks fan like myself, I'd want to see you guys start the worst quarterback of the two. But all jokes aside, I mean, I think right now, in terms of what's best for the 49ers right now, I'd say Jimmy G. And I know a lot of fans might not like that, might not want to hear that from me. They might just say that, oh, he's a Seahawks fan. He just wants to see Jimmy G get injured or whatnot. No, not really. I think that Jimmy G, he's above average when it comes to being a quarterback in the National Football League. I just think that, yeah, obviously he's injury prone. Yeah, he's not a superstar, but he gets the job done. I mean, why else do you guys think y'all went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago with Jimmy G as the quarterback? And when you look at the time that he's missed, your guys' record without him isn't all that well. But whenever he does play, your guys' record is one of the best in football. And so clearly something is happening, or something is being done correctly. Clearly he's helping you guys win football games. And right now with Trey Lance, yes, I talked about his immense potential, but that's for the future. I don't think that after barely throwing for over 300 passes in all of his entire college career, I don't think he's ready yet. Even if you were to throw him into the fire now, yeah, he has an elite defense. Yeah, he has an elite coach. Yeah, he's an elite ground game. He has elite weapons, but I don't think that he's going to be able to capitalize on that just yet. And so if you guys were to throw Trey Lance into the fire now, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be questions of whether or not he could actually take you guys back to the Super Bowl. No rookie quarterback has ever took his team to the Super Bowl, no matter how good they were. And so with Trey Lance, yes, he's the future, but right now Jimmy G is going to be the one, is going to be your guys' best bet to win football games now. And if you guys are going to make a Super Bowl this year, it's either going to be with Jimmy G at the helm or with Trey Lance rapidly progressing a lot faster than we all expect. But right now, I'd be scared of Jimmy G.
So Matthew wants to give a shout out to you. Say your stuff, man. So Matthew's giving your props, and I'm gonna be really honest. Like you're very knowledgeable about your team, and a lot of great stuff. So this is coming from me. Matthew's giving you a really good shout out. So that's a really great compliment. Like I said, I think the 49ers Ultimate Report fans, they're knowledgeable themselves. They have really great opinions, and to give you props, because of course, I'm going to be honest. I do a little trash talking about the Seahawks. I'll be honest about that, but it's a really good rivalry, and I would not want any other rivalry in my opinion. So he's giving you some great shout outs. Let's go to the NFL draft. I'm going to just recap my 49ers. Of course, Trey Lance's name has been talked about. He's the future. We got Aaron Banks. He's going to be our potentially our starting right guard. We got Trey Sermon, from Ohio State. A lot of people are saying he's going to be a really good bell cow, someone who's going to be touching the ball, first, second, and third down. And then we got Aubrey Thomas from Michigan. We got Jalen Moore, another offensive line guy. Then we got Talanoa Ufunga, we got Diamador Lenore, and we got Elijah Mitchell. So the 49ers, basically, they did not address the wide receiver, because that was something that we have Debo and Ayuk. So that's what we did. What did you guys do in the draft? And did you guys have a lot of picks, or you guys had like very little picks?
So Seattle actually started the draft with only 4 picks, but after a trade, I think it was in the 6th round to get Storm Forsythe from Florida. That brought it down to a league low 3. And real quick, though, shout out to Matthew. Much love, brother. It really means a lot to me. Thank you very much for tuning in. But, yeah, look, Seattle only had 3 draft picks. Their first pick was Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan. I think it's Central Michigan, one of the two. Small school, but he's a speedster. Nevertheless, I think that he brings a lot of value to the Seahawks, not only as a wide receiver 3, but also a guy that can return kicks on special teams, punt returns, kick returns. He's also had experience playing cornerback a couple of years ago for his school when they didn't have any corners, and so he's versatile in that regard. And he's one of the fastest players in all the NFL draft. I think that last year when you watch Seahawks games after DK and Tyler Lockett, if those two struggled, there wasn't a reliable third option. With all due respect to David Moore, I don't think that he should be a Super Bowl winning team's third best receiver. And so hopefully Seattle addressed that by bringing in Dwayne Eskridge. A lot of people going to point to the fact that, oh, he's 24 years old. He's already old. You know, we don't know what his potential is. It doesn't matter. He's an influx of young talent. He's a new face, and he's going to be a guy that brings speed to the table. He's a yak machine. And so I can't wait to see what he does with the best deep ball thrower in all of football, and Russell Wilson. Trey Brown from Oklahoma, he's undersized, but man, he is a dog. When you look at some of the best corners in all of football today, you talk about Jair Alexander. He's under 6 feet tall. You talk about Tre'Davious White from Buffalo. He's under 6 feet tall. And so who's to say that Trey Brown isn't going to succeed just because he's not 6 feet tall? He's a dog. He's a clutch player. He's super aggressive. He's physical in run coverage or in run defense, and he's able to stand up with the best of them, especially when it comes to lining up against opposing receivers. He could press you at the line of scrimmage. He uses his voice. He's a leader in the locker room. He played all those years in Oklahoma, so he has veteran experience. And then you go over to Stone Forsythe, offensive tackle from Florida. He's not built to be a pass protector in today's league, not a pass protector. Right now, when you look at some of the weaknesses in his game, he's not much of a run blocker. He's not super strong. He's not super big for a man his size. He's about 6'7", just barely over 300 pounds, but he has a lot to work on in terms of his run blocking. But when you look at what he brings to the table as a pass protector, he's already an NFL caliber starting tackle if you just look at his pass protection skills alone. And when you look at what Seattle needs, you need a guy that can protect the quarterback, that could excel in pass protection. And right now, that's what Stone Forsythe does. Now, he's the future in Seattle. I don't see him starting for another year or so. But when it comes to run blocking, that's more desire. That's more strength. That's more, being able to lift weights and move. When it comes to pass protection, that's more technique. And so when a guy comes into the league and he's lacking in pass protection, but he excels as a run blocker, well, he has a lot to learn in terms of technique. Stone Forsythe, that's not the case. So he just really needs to hit the weight room, and he really needs to show it in terms of desire when it comes to run blocking. But overall, while Seattle only had 3 picks, I'm super excited about the draft class. There are a lot of undrafted free agents that I also covered a couple of months ago on my channel, so I'm super excited about them. But altogether, I think that people are sleeping on Seattle's draft class, the undrafted free agent class, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people next season.
I want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to my boy Niner Sickness. This guy, I had him on my channel. He's a super diehard 49er fan, so shout out to him. And I wanted to answer a question. This is a 49er question from Jay. He says, I saw a channel saying our biggest mistake of the offseason was paying Juice, Kyle Juszczyk. What are your reactions to that? So for me as a 49er fan, Kyle Juszczyk was not going to go to any other team. There's not a lot of fullbacks left in the league. There's probably, I want to say maybe 2 or 3. I could be wrong, but he was the market. So he wasn't going to get paid, that market. And unfortunately, Kyle Juszczyk is not a typical fullback. And with that, I wanted to piggyback with this question from Jay. Your thoughts of Kyle Juszczyk? Is he a fullback? What type of player is he? Is he a very dangerous player? And are you worried about playing a healthy team with Kyle Juszczyk?
Yeah, most definitely, bro. I feel like to just call him a fullback would be disrespectful of all the other things that he brings to the table. He's an excellent pass catcher. He's a great run blocker or a pass blocker, and he's able to be utilized at the goal line. He's a great leader. He's great in the locker room. He's a great teammate, and he's great with coaches. He's great with fans. He's a great person and a great player. And so, yeah, while he might have been a little overpaid, I think what he brings to the table as far as what he does for you guys, it might not show up on, or actually, no, not even it might not. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet, his impact and what he brings to the table, but he's truly one of the best players in all of football, regardless of position. And so to have him designated as a fullback, I mean, to me, that's kind of putting a limitation on what he can do on the football field. He can really do it all. And I'd love to have him on the Seahawks. I wouldn't have mind paying him the money that San Francisco gave him. I think he's a great player. He knows what he's doing. And every team would love to have a guy like him in the locker room and also on the field.
All right, so now we're going to piggyback to our next, topic. It's the schedule. So, basically, the Niners are playing, almost the same schedule as you guys. So, first of all, let's talk about the non-division teams that we're playing. So, basically, like we're playing 2 teams that really worried me. Is there 2 teams that are not, the Niners, the Cardinals, or the Rams that worry the Seahawks?
Yeah, I think week 2 going up against the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. I think that's going to be a problem. Earlier I talked about how I'm not super high on our secondary. Well, I don't know how our secondary is going to be able to match up against the likes of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, not to mention Derrick Henry in the box. And so I think that it might take a couple of weeks for our defense to really establish themselves and kind of get back into that groove. And a tough test against, the Titans in week 2. I mean, that's going to show us, I think, just how good our defense could possibly be. That's definitely a team that I'm worried about. I actually had that penciled in as a loss. And so going off of that, I think another team that I'm worried about, the Washington football team. I'm not exactly sure what week it is, but I know Seattle does travel to Washington to play them on Monday Night Football towards the latter half of the NFL season. And while Seattle did come in with the victory last time these two faced off last season, it was off of Carlos Dunlap's sack that kind of clinched the game. I think that this season, I mean, that team's going to be even better. They're going to have at least a more competent quarterback under center with Ryan Fitzpatrick. That defense, as scary as it is to say it, might actually even be better than they were last year. And so that's another team that I'm kind of worried about. But when it comes to the rest of the schedule, I think that the odds makers or the schedule makers went a little easy on Seattle this time around. And so, those are some of the teams that I'm worried about, aside from obviously the rest of the foes in the NFC West.
Yeah, I did a video in April. First, the two teams that I really worry about the first are the Titans and the Colts. I think that team does worry me. Of course, I also worry about the Falcons. I worry about the Falcons. That's a team that really worries me. Even though that they didn't have the best year last year, that's a potential trap game. And of course, the Bears also worry me, and even the Vikings. So there are some games that I call trap games for a reason, because on paper it looks like we're going to, not have the best year, but at the end of the day, that's one thing that it's never always going to be, now with 17 games, a 17-0 schedule. All right, so I think our guest is having a little bit technical difficulties. Let me check. All right, don't worry about it. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with my camera. Can I leave real quick and then come right back?
Yeah, sure. Don't worry about it. Let me engage with my fans.
Okay, sorry about that, man.
Yeah, no big deal. All right. Let's see. Where were we? Jay says that David can't wait to school Jared Goofy. All right. Let's see what else. Crazy Jews. I cannot wait for our game against the Colts. Yep. I think that game's going to be a really good game. DeForest Buckner is going to return back to Levi's Stadium. I think we're playing here at Levi's. And it's going to be a really fun game to watch. One thing that, they have a really good offensive line. Carson Wentz is better than what's his name? Phillip Rivers. Their running back is to be healthy. He missed a lot of time from an ACL injury. Their defense, of course, about Darius Leonard. They also have DeForest Buckner, and their secondary is one of the forgotten components. So it's going to be a very fun game to watch. I still have faith that the Niners can pull up, that victory, because at the end of the day, like I said, that's one of the tough games that we have to worry about. So at the end of the day, that's going to be a fun game. That's going to be a really fun game. All right, David says the Colts have DeForest Buckner. Makes me worried. Yep, DeForest Buckner. I do not want to talk about it, but our guest is back. Looks like everything's all right. Everything all right, man?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. My camera just turned off.
Oh, man, don't worry about it. I'm using an old laptop, so that's okay. All right. All right, now we're going to talk about the division. Of course, I do agree. We have the best division in the NFL. The Seahawks. That team, you can never underestimate them. The Rams, they have a really good squad. We can't forget about them. And of course, the Cardinals. They got a lot of free agents. So first, let me ask the Seahawks, which is the team besides the 49ers, or if you want to include the 49ers, worries the Seahawks the most?
Obviously the 49ers, but just for the sake of this exercise or for this question, I'm going to go with the Rams. And while earlier I did say that the Rams are overrated, that doesn't mean that when they play against Seattle, they are. Just because even when the Rams aren't relevant, even when they're a bad team, even when Jeff Fisher is coaching the football team, they always still seem to play it close against Seattle. Even when Seattle is clearly better than the Rams, they always, for some reason, somehow, some way, always get under Seattle's skin. And I get it. It's a divisional opponent. When you build your team to beat the teams in your draft, or excuse me, not your draft, in your division. And so the Rams know Seattle inside and out. And when they draft guys, when they bring guys onto the football team, it's with the goal of not just defeating that team, but to defeat the other teams in the rest of the division. So I think the Rams, obviously by bringing in Matthew Stafford, their offense is going to be a lot better. They're going to be having a lot better quarterback play. They're not going to have a Jared Goff under center. They're going to have a gunslinger that could throw the rock really all over the football field. And he's one of the most clutch players in all of football. And so now that they have a quarterback that's more competent, now that they still have some of the pieces that they have on defense, I'm going to have to go with the Rams if it's not the 49ers.
Like a lot of people, they make fun of me. Says, John, you got to worry about these Cardinals. Like the Seahawks are not good, on paper, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is my argument. I'm not worried about the Cardinals, period. Yes, when we play the Cardinals, the games are fun to watch. But even when in 2019, those games were fun to watch, but we came up on top. Jimmy Garoppolo had 2 interceptions against the Cardinals, and we still won that game. And then, of course, the first game on Halloween night, Jimmy Garoppolo had the best game, probably one of the best game of 49er quarterback since Jeff Garcia. So the games are fun, but I'm not worried about the Cardinals. The Rams, there are some Rams fans, and I joke about this. How can we beat you last year with Jimmy Garoppolo not 100% healthy and Nick Mullins and a very, very awful team? So I'm not worried about the Rams. But when it comes to the Seahawks, they're the only team I worried about. And even though, John, you're only saying that because of your guest, I've been saying that for the past several years. The Seahawks in 2019, all the games came down to what? An overtime loss, and your team kicked the field goal. That game could have ended in a tie. And then, of course, I joke about this because Dre Greenlaw, he's the Seahawks killer. He stopped you guys at the goal line for us to win the division and get that first round bye. So I agree, with that. But if I think, I do look at the Rams as a much better team. If I kind of have to agree with you as well about the Rams, they're a team the Niners should look out for. But at the end of the day, I'm not worried about, the team because, like I said, I don't think the Niners are gonna, like the worst case for the 49ers, we go 3-3 with the division. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think that most of Seattle's losses are going to come from within the division, and I'm also predicting the same division record. I think that Seattle wins 1 game each against each of the division foes, but they also lose 1 game each to division foes, and so 3-3 I think is a really solid record.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we're going to move to the final segment of the show, and unfortunately, the show is coming down to an end. So basically, I've mentioned this guy already. This will be the 3rd time. Ryan Sakamoto. I really recommend you checking him out. He has a Seattle Seahawks draft evaluation video. He gave your team a really good grade. The Beast Rider, and that guy. I think you and him should have a collaboration. I think it'll be really, really great for you and him to sit down. I think it'll probably be a really good show for you because it's going to bring a lot of fans from other teams. And, of course, your fans will get to meet this guy. I think he's probably the best here in the Bay Area. And, of course, I'm hyping him up a little bit because, I've become a buddy of him. So that's a really, really good thing. So welcome to the 2-minute drill. Guest answers some really tough questions. Now, I am just joking. We're going to talk about some really fun questions. So we're going to start off with the easy question. So you're a Seahawks guy. You know the Seahawks really well. Right now, at this current moment, what player do you like?
Who's my favorite player on the team?
right? Yeah, the player on the current roster right now.
Who I think this one comes down to two players. It comes down to the new heart and soul of the team, Jamal Adams, and it comes down to DK Metcalf. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go Jamal. I think that with Jamal, I mean, he's just such a dog on and off the field. He's such a great leader. He's a great guy in the locker room. His talent is not only immense, but he's also able to elevate the play of those around him. He's able to rally the troops. He's able to be a leader of men. He's able to be the voice of this team. He's able to get after the quarterback. He's such a do-it-all, versatile safety. And I just really love his energy and what he brings to the table. And I loved him as a player, or I love him as a player. And so it's real close, but right now it's Jamal Adams.
Yeah, here, the guests that I had, they've been 49er fans. They talk about George Kittle and Fred Warner. And, one thing about Fred Warner, I like Fred Warner. That guy is a beast. He continues that tradition. The Niners, for some reason, for many decades, know how to draft linebackers. Of course, Patrick Willis is a name who he retired really early, but Patrick Willis, one of those big top names. So Fred Warner and George Kittle are basically the two guys Niner fans talk about. All right, I want to get to know your Seahawks knowledge really well. There have been a lot of great Seahawks players in the organization. Who is a player you like who no longer plays with the organization of the Seahawks?
Ooh,
they retired.
That's a good one. This one's a little older, but I'm going to go with Walter Jones. I mean, you talk about one of the best offensive linemen, not just in Seahawks history, but in all of NFL history. And I just remember when I was a little kid, but when he was here in Seattle, I mean, paving the way for Sean Alexander, Sean or Stephen Hutchinson, and the rest of the offensive linemen that Seattle had. Nothing to take away from Sean Alexander, but man, he had some great lines to run behind. And imagine if, our Seahawks now, if my Seahawks now had a guy like Walter Jones protecting the blind side, then you can move a guy like Dwayne Brown over to the right side, and you'd be able to field an instant elite level offensive line. And so a guy like Walter Jones is definitely a player that used to play for Seattle that I wish would play for Seattle today.
Yeah, he here in 49er country, a lot of people will say Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, Steve Young, like the big names. But I don't know if you ever heard the name Brian Young, but that guy was a beast. He was one of their premier guys during those later eras and during the tough times of the Niners after our dynasty ended. He was the guy who made that defensive line really good. Brian Young. If you don't know who he is, you Google him and you can see why. And I just found out that he's finally in the 49ers Hall of Fame, but that's my favorite 49er former player.
Not a bad choice at all. I definitely got to look him up.
Yeah. All right. So now here comes a fun question. If you were in the NFL playing maybe for the Seahawks or any other NFL team, what is the position that you would play? What is your favorite position? What position would you have played for if you were playing professional football?
Ooh, I like that question. I'm just gonna have to go with the position that I played with in high school. Just a couple of years ago, I was playing wide receiver. I was playing cornerback from my high school, and man, I would have loved to have played. If I had to pick a spot, actually, no, I'm gonna go ahead and say safety. I'm gonna say safety. If I'm playing defense, it'd be safety. If I'm playing offense, it'd be wide receiver. Just because, I mean, on offense. Obviously, I was one of those guys that loved to catch clean passes, that loved to catch short passes, that loved getting the ball in space, and really just wanted to take it to the hole every single time, take advantage of my size. Or I'm not the biggest guy, but, I always felt like I was one of the more quicker, one of the fastest guys on the field. When it comes to defense, man, I always wanted to just lay a hard hit out on somebody. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt nobody. I'm not trying to, injure nobody, nothing like that. But every time I see a big hit, especially that was something that Cam Chancellor embodied. I mean, all those big hits, I've always wanted to try something like that myself. I mean, Earl Thomas used to come in like a missile, deliver big hits. Richard Sherman even at the cornerback position. And so Bobby Wagner, I'm used to seeing that here in Seattle. And so I love to lay out a big hit myself.
You actually took, my answer. I like playing the secondary. So now we're going to move on to the more fun questions. They're going to be much harder. Now I'm just joking. Let's continue moving on. All right. we all have our favorite foods that we love to eat. What is your favorite food?
Man, bro, I'm a food lover. My dad, he's a cook slash chef. He has a culinary and a cuisine degree. So I'm used to eating a lot of good food, I like to think. But if I really had to bring it down to one, I gotta go with spaghetti. You know, I'm a pasta lover, and when it comes to spaghetti, I mean, I can eat it every day. I can eat it multiple times a day. And there's something about spaghetti, bro. It's always been like that ever since I was a little kid. And every single time my grandma or someone asks me, "Oh, what do you want for your birthday? Or what do you want us to cook for this holiday? Or we're coming over this day. What do you want us to cook?" Almost every single time, I'm gonna say spaghetti.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I love Italian food. I agree with spaghetti, but unfortunately, I've been actually spoiled when it comes to taste. So when I taste some generic spaghetti, I'm like, nope, no, thank you. If it's really good spaghetti, man, I would recommend it for you. And if you're ever here in San Francisco, I would recommend some of the best places I would like. But I agree with that. I love pizza. A little bit too much. I shouldn't be eating it right now. I'm trying to lose this COVID weight, but like I said, I agree with that. That's a really good answer. All right, next question. All right, we all have we have our entertainment. We watch TV, we watch movies. So this is the a two-part question I'm going to put together. Favorite TV series, favorite TV genre, favorite movie genre. What are the entertainment stuff that you love to watch?
Man, bro, I hate to sound like a boring individual, but I don't really watch TV. I don't really watch any TV series, and I don't watch movies as much as I used to. But if I had to pick a series right now, it'd be The Blacklist. I know it's been running for a while now, but I recently kind of just got put on with The Blacklist. I've been watching it on Netflix just from time to time, or whenever one of my family members has it on the screen. I'll sit down and watch it for a little bit. But that's definitely a show that's been very intriguing. That's definitely been a show that I've been paying attention to, and I think it's a big compliment just because, like I said, I don't watch TV, and so if I'm gonna be hooked watching anything on TV, then whoever made The Blacklist, they should feel real proud of what they did, and what they're still doing. And as far as movies, I'm more of a movie guy. I mean, growing up, I used to have movie nights with my parents, every single weekend, and we were just movie lovers. I mean, I almost felt as if we were movie critics for all the movies that we watched. And so, uh, if we want to talk about movie genres, I'd have to say just like I love watching true stories. I love watching like biography type movies, or like movies that is based on a true story. I also love just motivational stuff like that. Sport movies. If I am watching any TV, it's just really gonna be ESPN or sports talk or games or highlights. But that's kind of it for me.
So Monica, what's up, Monica? Thanks for hopping on. She says that she also loves the Blacklist. She's a big fan of the Blacklist. Yep.
Great
So
show. Great
yep,
show.
I gotta check it out. I'm a little bit intrigued. What's this Blacklist about? All right,
Oh, you got to, bro.
all right. So our next question is: do you have any type of hobbies?
Yeah, for me, if I'm not talking sports, if I'm not writing sports, if I'm not watching sports, then I love hitting the gym. I love just being in peak physical shape. I love still acting like I'm still an athlete. I just love, keeping in shape. I love just lifting weights. I love, just taking care of myself, taking care of my body. And if it's not that, then really just spending quality time with my loved ones, with my family, with all my brothers, my bros, my friends. But yeah, that's it for me, really. And actually, just to address what you said earlier, I actually just came back from San Francisco. I got some family over there. I spent damn near 2 weeks over there, and so that was my first time out in the Bay. And man, I loved what I saw. It was great people, great energy, great vibes, great architecture. I love the city, and I definitely plan on being back probably sometime next month. And so, once I'm back, bro, I'll definitely hit you up. Maybe we can get something going.
Yeah, one thing about San Francisco, and I hope I'm not crossing the line, but I'm gonna assume that you are of Philippine descent.
I am. I
Yeah,
am.
so here in San Francisco, we have a city called Daly City, and a lot of
Yeah.
Filipinos. it's one thing about San Francisco, and I'm gonna tell you something. I've been blessed. It's a real good melting pot, and right there, I have a lot of friends that I went to grade school with. I got friends all the parts of San Francisco, friends outside the Bay Area. I've been blessed to live in my location, and one thing I will say about this, Filipino food is really delicious because I went to school with a lot of Filipino kids, and they taught me a lot of some little, slang stuff, and the Filipino people are really cool people. So, that's something really, really cool, for that. So that's pretty cool. And that you were here in the city, that's, San Francisco is a wonderful place to hang out. It's very pricey, very expensive. So thanks for stopping by, here. And if you're ever here, I'll give you a tour. So that's something really nice of you to know. So that's wonderful about that.
Well, definitely.
All right. The last question, music. What type of music do you listen to?
So for me, I'm more of a hip hop, underground rap type of guy. From time to time, if I'm kind of tired of my music, I'll listen to classical, I'll listen to instrumental. But I think for the most part right now, I mean, it's really a whole bunch of just hip hop, R&B, a lot of rap, a lot of underground rap. That's the type of stuff that I listen to. But when I'm not listening to music, I'm listening to motivational podcasts. I'm listening to other different podcasts. I'm trying to tone it down a little bit on the music end, but that's that really for me.
All right. Now we have the bonus question. This is the fun question. Plug in all your social media, your YouTube channel. Let the viewers know, one last time, who you are. This is 1 minute of, I can't pronounce your name, so I'm really sorry, but go ahead. This is your time. Go ahead.
So once again, Calvin Domingo is the name. Steezy A. Smith is the game. And before you even think about checking me out, make sure you're subscribed to my brother right here, my guy, 49ers Ultimate Report. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I want to thank everybody that's been tuned in. Definitely hit that like button, drop a comment, and be sure to follow my mans on all other socials at the 49ers Ultimate Report. And then once you do that, man, definitely be on the lookout for me. Check me out. I'm over here from Seattle. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the show, but I wasn't born over here. I was raised over here in Seattle. I've been here for pretty much all my life. And so on my channel, you'll see a lot of Seattle-based content. I have a team behind me. We're also looking to incorporate more Seattle Mariners. We've been incorporating some boxing. We're looking to incorporate more UFC, mixed martial arts, baseball, soccer, and all other sports. But right now, primarily, you'll see a lot of NBA, Seahawks, NFL, some Manny Pacquiao boxing. But you can find me on all other socials at Steezy A. Smith, SteezyASmith. Also find me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at the same handle. And then if you want like a Snapchat or anything like that, hit me in my DMs at Steezy A. Smith. Once again, brother, thanks for having me on. It was a true pleasure, and thanks to everybody else that's been tuned in.
Before I go, I have to say this because I was bumping into CG Ruthless Sports. Shout out to that guy as well. And you mentioned you're a boxing guy. I just saw a really good fight on Showtime this past weekend. Charlo versus Brian Castano, an Argentinian fighter for a unification fight. That was a really good fight. So if you ever jump into the boxing scene, hit me up because I have a lot of things to say. And yes, I'm going to be watching that Pacquiao versus Errol Spence fight. For those who want to know, my fans, I also love boxing as well. So shout out to all my boxing fans, But right now we're talking 49er football and Seahawks football. So I wanted to say that before I go. And I also wanted to tell you that as well. But with that said, at the end of the show, I give all my Niner faithful, guests on who have YouTube channels a seal of approval. And I know, of course, I may rag on the Seahawks fans, but for some reason, after talking to you one-on-one, and, I've seen you on other 49er, content creator channels, I can see why I can say you are very legitimate. What you're saying, we need more people like you in the media. That's why I started my channel. We got to get the right people to talk about their team or NFL, basketball, whatnot. So I made something special for you. I'm still giving you my seal of approval, which is my old logo, and I made something for you. I'm gonna email it to you so you can check it out. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, that's okay. But I always try to make sure that I want to make sure that 49ers Ultimate Report give real credibility to these great content creators. So that is my gift to you, sir.
Hey, much love, brother. That really means a lot, for real. I can't wait to see what's in store. And, man, best believe I'm definitely going to check that out. Thank you.
All right, let me say goodbye to everybody in the chat before I go. All right, thanks for coming on, Crazy Juice. Thanks, Monica, for hopping on. All right, I already gave them. It's payo time. Thanks for hopping on for a moment. All right, we have Cowardly Lion 81. All right, I gave you an A for effort, Monica. All right, and then we got, of course, and then thanks, Snyder Sickness for hopping on. And with that said, I'm John Jay. This guy over here is, I can't pronounce your name. I'm really sorry about that. And this is the 49ers Ultimate Report signing out. You guys have a good rest of your evening.